Hi everybody, how are you today? I am tell ya, it is the day before Art Walk and things are popping, and I chose a couple books for tonight because they're due back in my library like at 7:30 tonight. And they wouldn't let me renew them. Oh my goodness. But I think I'm going to just read one of them and then say the other one for I think I'm going to just read one of them and then say the other one for Thursday, because Thursday I may have to do another recorded one, so this will fit in with it. But hey, my sister came here today. She's going to be in the art walk to us then and all that. So everybody, welcome. I have a paintbrush in my hand because I had been working on that lab from the other day. It actually took a few minutes to just do that. Yep. So if you're new here, hi, welcome. This is Story and Art, and I am Gretchen, your library storyteller, librarian, storyteller, photographer, and all that stuff. And it's good to be here. This is kind of my chill and settle and get a chance to breathe. You guys really kind of center me each day when I do this. It feels good. So let's check in with everybody. There's Linda. Lechabot's here. Namaste. Tamra's here. And Gail Duca is here. Yay. Just finishing on my funky wonky donkey, but I didn't think I can get it to... You know what? I don't think I'm going to get to be able to show anybody's art until I get back from my granddaughter's birthday. Quite frankly, I'm going to have to put it all, and when I do that, and I think I'll just plan on probably Sunday night will be Sunday night art show, and we'll just do that because yeah, it's been full steam ahead, and my time, the things are slipping away, and every time I started to open my email to look for things, I had emails from people who are in the venue that I am in the coordinating for the art walk, and boy, yeah, since that's tomorrow afternoon, I kind of had to take care of that. All right, don't worry about it. Wonky Donk, we'll have a whole art show, and I can spend some time on it probably on Sunday, and put them together, and we'll have some fun with that. But until then, keep fixing them up. I'll tell you what I'm working on, and I'll show you what that lab 2. Here it is. This was the it said to choose your favorite color, and I don't really have a favorite, but green seemed to jump out at me with the stuff I did, since it always seems to be a color that a lot of people think is hard to work with. So I decided to jump in on the green. So I've started it, and I'm going to get at least that part done. My favorite color. I'll do some other stuff for it, and it was wet. Gretchen. Oh my goodness. Oh well. And don't rub it off on your pants. Time for a sip on the crappies. So, life is getting in the way. Yeah, fortunately it tends to happen in little groups, in clumps. And this is one of those little clumps of a few days that it will be that way. And then I'll have some breather. But it's good. And Larry's here. And Angel's here. Yay! Julia! Hi, Julia! Good to see you again. You said it's on YouTube under Scottish Grandma Reads Wonky Donkey. Yeah. Hey. Get some good... I'll behave. Everybody. Yes. Thanks. All right. So, speechless. Speechless. Everybody's speechless. Can't believe I can't behave. I'm talking and I can't shut up. Oh, I was on my friend India's live a while ago, and they were looking at Lumia something or other. Paul Burke was showing her how to do this, and it has a thing set up where the people in the chat could control her lights with certain commands, and we just kind of went crazy nuts on her and got, because she was learning how to do this and was testing it out, so everybody went kind of nuts and had her lights flashing on and she had no control. It was pretty funny. I was laughing. A winky wonky donkey. Oh, we got home last night. Yay. What? I'm going to Arizona in October after I get back from Africa and stuff. But I'm going to Eugene this weekend for Rook's birthday. She's the three grandkids that are in Eugene. She's the middle one. She's going to be 4. Yay! So that's what I'm going to do. Yes. So, show it again? Oh, show it again? Oh my goodness. You really think so? It's just... So what I did was I took oil pastels in greens. I had a couple of them. And then I took some watercolor that was kind of old in greens and did that. And then I took my water-soluble oil pastel for some other places and did that. And that's how far I've gotten. We'll see. I kind of like it. I like that colors. And then I'm going to get some fabric and I'm going to do some animals and some things. I'm going to do the whole collage thing. That was that lab. But somebody else wants that book too, so we might not make it very far in that book. Oh my goodness. Yes, different grands. I have grands in Oregon and grands in Arizona. So it's one of those things. So, but this book I'm going to read tonight is the first one in a 2-parter. I'll read this one tonight. I'll read the second one in the 2-parter on Thursday. And I found it really fascinating because my dad had always wanted to be he called himself a barnyard architect. He had wanted to go to school for architecture, but ended up having to come home to take over the ranch and be an apple orchardist and take care of the family and do all that stuff. But he built, like I've told you, so many things for us and built part of our house that I grew up, but a lot of the things I have around here, my dad built. And architecture's always been kind of an interesting thing that I just fascinated sometimes when I go into buildings, and I love to photograph apart. And so I found this one, there's 2 books about 2 different architects and living in completely different times, and one's male, one's female, but the impact that they've had on the worldwide architecture and the whole building and everything, I think is pretty cool. So I'm going to do the first one tonight about the male gentleman and the older time, and it's called Immigrant Architect, and I'll talk about the author probably afterwards, because it's at the end of the book is the best description at the end of this book. So I'm going to go right here. Here's the book, Immigrant Architect. Let's see if that can unlock that overlay and move it up a little bit so you can see better. There we go. Yeah. Can we make it bigger? See if I can make it even bigger. There we go. Yay. Okay, Immigrant Architect. Come on. Rafael Guastavino and the American Dream. That's the name of this one. Written by Berta de Miguel and Kent Diebolt, and illustrated by Virginia Lorente. And it's the color scheme, too, used to illustrate the book is really cool. I think you'll like it. Immigrant Architect. Another one of our nonfiction. Let's learn something that we never saw in our history books type of story. That's so great. This is me standing beside my father on the day we arrived in New York. A little picture over here. It shows that. It's so great. And dedications to all immigrants, especially my three favorites, Gala, Marlo, and Gabi. I wish you a life without borders, forever full of curiosity. Yay. So this shows this opening. It says second layer, first layer. A vault is a roof or ceiling formed from an arch or series of arches. Oops, you can't hear me very well. Hang on, let me turn up my sound. Good, thanks. Somebody says they can't hear me very well. Her lips are moving later than her voice. That is most likely well, it's just like any type of thing. Should be right now, yeah. There, that's working. And let's see the sound level, turn that up. Turn this up a little bit, and perfect weather. Mine is in sync, maybe refreshing would help. Yes, let's see, let's mute the iPad, make sure that that's muted. And mute that too, okay. And, all right. Okay, that should be a little better, and I'll work on that. So there's the vault, is a roof or a ceiling formed from an arch or series of arches. These are terms you're going to need to know in the book. Tile, a flat solid brick. Arch, curved architectural element, usually spanning an opening, and the dome, a rounded vault, typically with a circular base. So those are some, it's kind of cool that they start with those kind of things. This is the story about a big dream, the story about Gustavino. Actually, it's a story about two people named Gustavino. Rafael Gustavino Moreno was a visionary, an architect, an engineer, an artist, an interior designer, an immigrant to America, a musician, and my father. I too am named Rafael, like my father and grandfather. I am Rafael III. My full name is Rafael Gustavino Esposito, and I would like to tell you how my father and I immigrated from Spain and changed the shape and color of 1,000 buildings in the United States. My father was born in Valencia, Spain in 1842. The city of Valencia had many domes in its skyline and also has a very special light because it is close to the Mediterranean Sea. My father grew up in a house in the city center, a neighborhood with majestic historic buildings constructed with fantastic vaulted ceilings. My great-grandfather was a leading architect, and my grandfather was a piano builder and a restorer. My father wanted to become a violinist and an architect. It is good to have dreams. What's this always? At the age of 17, my father moved to Barcelona, where he learned how to design and construct wonderful buildings. After he became a master builder, he designed a number of homes and industrial buildings in and around Barcelona that were inspirations for future famous architects. He incorporated vaulted and domed ceilings into many of his earliest designs. La Massa Theater was one of the most famous buildings he designed. He gave this building an extraordinary, large, and very thin domed ceiling constructed of tiles. It's in Catalonia, Spain. Having succeeded as an architect and businessman in Spain, My father dreamed his next big dream, to become an architect and builder in the United States. In 1881, at the age of 39, he made a decision that would completely change his life. He boarded a ship in Spain and immigrated to the United States of America. He brought two things with him: a big idea and me. He just wasn't just changing his own life, he was changing mine too. I was only 8 years old and not at all sure what our future held. Although I was thrilled with the adventure, saying goodbye to my siblings and especially my mama was very difficult. As often happens with immigrant families, I didn't know if I would ever see her again. It was a long trip by ship. It took us 2 weeks to travel from Barcelona to New York City. The United States was a young, growing country in the midst of what is now called the Gilded Age. Railroads were expanding, new territories were being developed and settled, and commerce and trade were exploding. For instance, can you imagine a city that grows from 1 million to 3.5 million inhabitants in 20 years? That is what happened in New York City in the 2 decades after we arrived. When we arrived, the Brooklyn Bridge was still under construction, but almost finished. New York, Boston, and other cities across the United States needed new houses, bridges, tunnels, schools, universities, churches, public baths, because at that time there were no showers at home. Gyms, banks, hospitals, museums. They needed everything. It was the perfect environment for an architect, don't you think? The country also needed thousands of immigrants to help make it all this growth possible. When immigrants arrived in a new country, they are drawn to people from their own culture, who speak their native language and share their customs. What is the origin of the ethnic neighborhoods such as Little Italy, Chinatown, and others? We also followed this path and went to live in Little Spain, a neighborhood on the west side of Manhattan, around 14th Street. My father and I didn't speak any English, which made everything difficult. My father decided to send me to a boarding school to learn English. At first, I was terrified of being all by myself, but I soon made new friends. I graduated with honors 1 year later and went back to New York to start helping my dad in his office. Imagine! I was only 10 years old and spoke better English than he did. When I was away at school, my father tried hard to find work as an architect, but because he spoke so little English, he made little progress. In the 1880s, American cities had a problem, a huge problem. Buildings were often constructed mainly of wood or iron, and both materials behave terribly in the presence of fire. Wood burns into ashes, and iron deforms and melts. In either case, the building collapses, and the result is disastrous. Buildings were also constructed very close together. When one ignited, the fire could spread across the block, through the neighborhood in a matter of minutes. Fires were common in America's growing cities. In 1871, the Great Fire of Chicago destroyed the houses of 100,000 inhabitants. 73 miles of roads, 2,000 lampposts, and 17,500 buildings were lost. American citizens were understandably very afraid of fire, especially in densely packed cities. My father had come to America with a unique solution to this problem. Did you know what high-temperature pizza and bread ovens are made of? Bricks. That's because bricks can withstand extremely high temperature. My father knew how to enclose interior spaces with complex curved surfaces constructed from very thin bricks called ceramic tiles. and how to make the spaces fireproof by building what architects called vaults, which are arched roofs and ceilings. Isn't that brilliant? Real brilliance is often hidden in the simplest ideas, the ones that seem so obvious you wonder why no one has thought of them before. That is the big idea that my father had carried aboard the ship from Spain. It had given him the confidence to emigrate. My father patented tiled vaults and domes as a fireproof construction system after we arrived in America, so that he was the only one who could legally use the system in the United States. That is how this construction type became known as the Gustavino tile vaulting system. His system made buildings strong, fireproof, and beautiful. Layers of interlocking flat tiles and mortar can form a thin yet strong shell that can be curved almost any way you can imagine. A vault built like this is like an eggshell, light but strong, thanks to its overall shape. Try this experiment. Squeeze an egg endwise between your thumb and forefinger, and you will be surprised how strong it is. You may not be able to break it. Its strength is due to its shape. Vaults, arches, and domes work the same way. Now squeeze the other way and see what happens. Nobody in the United States had heard of tile vaults. To promote the fireproof and structural properties of tile vault and to convince the building code authorities of the safety of the system, my father set up demonstrations in which he built a fire under a vault and weighed it down with tons of iron weights up to 120,000 pounds. Do you know how much weight that is? It's like stacking 8 large elephants on top of a vault. Whew, a lot of people, including architects, officials, engineers, building owners, and press attended these demonstrations. They were all astonished by what they witnessed. They wondered how a Gustavino vault could possibly resist hours of fire and tons of weight without falling apart. And yet, despite all the recommendations and achievements my father had brought with him from Spain, and despite all the demonstrations and explanations, he could not find projects to design. Builders and other architects had a hard time understanding his terrible English. To earn money, he took a job as an illustrator for a furniture magazine. He was an exceptional illustrator and could draw anything. Drawing is an international language through which he was more than capable of communicating. Eventually, his illustrations led to architectural design work, which led to his first big commission as a building contractor, the Boston Public Library, which led to the formation of the Gustavino Fireproof Construction Company. Remember, I was 10 years old when I started working for my father's company part-time after school. At the age of 15, I began working there full-time. My father designed the ceilings of the Boston Public Library in 1889, working with the superstar architects of the time, McKim, Mead, and White. The library's ceilings served as the Gustavino Company catalog. They were constructed in a variety of patterns with a variety of decorative details. The Boston Public Library was the first library in the United States to lend books for free to any citizen. That is why it is known as the Palace for the People. In the beginning, we risked everything to win new projects and overcome challenges. Sometimes we were successful, and sometimes we lost everything. Once we lost our house and had to sleep in our office, pretending to work late so that nobody knew we were living there. I remember when my father sold his beloved violin to our landlady in order to pay the rent. My father was one of the bravest and most determined people I have ever known. He never gave up, The poorer and more desperate we might be, the more creative, excited, and focused he became to solve our problems. That is something we all should keep in mind. If you fail, take it as an opportunity to learn, move forward, and succeed. And that is how we got to one of our most successful projects, the first subway station in the city of New York. When the subway system was constructed, New Yorkers were worried about traveling underground because they were afraid the ceilings might collapse. To ease their fears, my father designed the station with bright colors, luxurious lighting, and even skylights. It looked more like a palace dining room than an underground subway station. Thanks in part to his work, New Yorkers became unafraid of traveling on subways. Secret. This train station was closed and abandoned in 1945 because trains got longer. Now it is probably the most beautiful ghost space in the city, and the best part is that you can see it. If you take the number 6 train downtown and stay in it after the last stop, it makes a U-turn through the Gustavino station before heading back uptown. Press your forehead to the glass and you will see sunlight streaming in through the skylights to illuminate my father's ghost station. What an imaginative and magical space. Wow. In the late 1890s, my father went to live in the Black Mountains near Asheville, North Carolina, where he was working on the 250-room Biltmore House, the largest home in America. With his help, I began directing this company in New York. I didn't know he did the Biltmore. I've been there. I was just 22 years old. But my father had taught me enough that I could begin running the Gustavino Fireproof Construction Company on my own. In 1906, my father designed and started building the St. Lawrence Basilica in Asheville with an unusual and fabulous oval dome. During the winter of 1908, he caught a cold while working on the cathedral site and died unexpectedly in February, just after the main dome was completed. His funeral service was held in the unfinished church, accompanied by music of his own composition. Sadly, he never had a chance to return to Spain and never saw his family again. I was devastated by his sudden death of the father who had inspired me, but life had to continue. I took over management of the company, and my father's dream became mine to help build the new world. Says the Queensboro Bridge project was one of the first I managed on my own. Soaring spaces under the Manhattan approach to the bridge are constructed of the fantastic white-tiled Gustavino vaults. The space beneath the vaults became an open street market, and people liked it so much that the market became famous for sumptuous delicatessen foods. When you look up at the ceiling vaults, you feel inspired by curves that look like a forest. The columns are tree trunks, and the curved vaults look like branched forest canopies, an urban forest. Did you know that New York City Marathon crosses into Manhattan over that bridge? One of my favorite projects was the Elephant House at the Bronx Zoo, which, by the way, was one of the first zoos in the world. This is where the elephants sleep and take refuge from the rain, and it's gorgeous. The dome has skylights that allow natural light to enter the space. An effect is similar to that of dappled sunlight filtering through a forest canopy, so the elephants feel at home. You may be wondering what is the biggest dome we ever erected. It's the central dome of the Cathedral Church of St. John the Divine in New York City. The dome is 95 feet in diameter, and its thickness varies from 8 inches at the base to just 3.5 inches at the top. It is so tall, 162 feet, that the Statue of Liberty could stand beneath it. Yet it was built in just 3 months. My father would have been so proud. In this cathedral are 2 Gustavino staircases whose main feature is that they lack a central axis. Each staircase seems to be floating in the air. Secret. Many people don't know that this dome was intended to remain only until the cathedral raised enough funds to replace it with a cathedral tower, but this never happened. New York City used to have two fantastic train stations, Grand Central Terminal and Pennsylvania Station, which was said to be the most beautiful station in the world. Both stations featured Gustavino vaults. Unfortunately, and despite intense opposition, the original Penn Station was demolished in 1964 to be replaced by a more modern train station and related development projects. When plans were announced to tear down and replace Grand Central Terminal as well, outraged New Yorkers created an activist movement that saved it. Today, Grand Central Terminal remains one of the most cherished public spaces in America. More than 750,000 people pass through this station every day. Secret. The basement of the Grand Central, at the entrance to the Oyster Bar restaurant, you will find one of the most famous Gustavino vaults. It does not look special, but it is called the Whispering Gallery. Can you imagine why? If you speak in one corner facing the wall and a friend stands in the other corner facing the same way, your friend will clearly hear what you say, even if you speak in a whisper. In 1912, we finished the most fashionable and luxurious hotel of its day in New York, the Vanderbilt Hotel. The most fabulous space was the lobby and bar at ground level, which featured spectacular Gustavino vaulted ceilings and polychromatic, multicolored tiles. Unfortunately, because New York is such a restless, constantly changing city, it too was demolished in 1967. But a corner of the hotel was saved, and today that corner is the vaulted ceiling of Wolfgang's Steakhouse. It is so dramatic that customers are distracted looking up to admire the ceiling rather than paying attention to their meals. From the 1890s to the 1920s, millions of immigrants voyaged to the United States. Every single day, several ships would dock in New York City, with hundreds of people carrying hundreds of dreams. Ellis Island was the largest immigration entry station in America. The more than 12 million immigrants who passed through its doors between 1892 and its closing in 1954 were not only welcome, they were needed, just as they are needed today. I was asked to design and build the vault that would cover the main hall, which was the first space millions of immigrants would see in America. Because I was an immigrant myself, this was a special project for me. I wanted them to feel welcomed by their new country. Fact: many of the grandparents of people you know came to America through Ellis Island. It is determined that more than 40% of Americans today are descended from Ellis Island immigrants. Even the 45th President of the United States, who opposes immigration, is a descendant of poor European immigrants. Oh, we can tell when this book was written. Yes, my grandfather came through Ellis Island. I have thought a lot about which building I would like to show you as this story comes to an end. I have decided to finish with the color explosion of the Nebraska State Capitol domes. These ceilings were designed to tell stories about life, nature, society, agriculture, and native plants and animals. The Nebraska State Capitol is so large and complicated that it took us 10 years to complete its project. Along with the featured polychromatic tiles, we also used the tiles with special acoustic properties to soften the sound waves, echoing between the walls. This makes conversations in these spaces more understandable and pleasant. I have always felt that this building represented the height of our achievement as a company. We combined shape, color, and sound control using curved tile ceilings that were also structural. The Gustavino Fireproof Construction Company, directed first by my father and then by me, built curved ceilings in more than 1,000 buildings in 10 countries, including Canada, Cuba, Holland, India, Mexico, Panama, Spain, Trinidad, and England, as well as the United States. In New York City alone, we helped to design and construct vaults in more than 400 buildings. When we arrived in America as immigrants from Spain, we brought and adapted a construction technique that would protect millions of lives from fire and would damage and would change the color and shapes of ceilings all over the United States. Many architects and engineers were and still are inspired by the Gustavino Vault. Antoni Gaudí, Luis Dominici, Rosario Candela, Eladio Dieste, Fernando Vegas, Camila Mieto, Norman Foster. And me? I forgot to tell you that I died in 1950. My words reach you now as if carried around the vaulted walls of the Whispering Gallery in Grand Central Terminal. Books, too, are vaults. They keep the past alive. Know this. You are our future, and knowing and protecting the past will help you create that future. Though some of our architecture has been demolished, there are still hundreds of buildings constructed with Gustavino tile that you can visit. Here are 4 suggested routes in New York City, and there are many others in other cities and countries. The Uptown route is the Bronx Zoo, Elephant House, the Cathedral Church of St. John Divine. The Midtown route, the Queensboro Bridge, St. Thomas Church, 5th Avenue, St. Bartholomew's Church, Grand Central Terminal, Wolfgang Steakhouse, Park Avenue. The Downtown route, Municipal Building Subway Entrance, Western Union Building, 40 West Street, Barclay, Versailles Building, National Museum of American Indian and Battery Maritime Building, and the Prospect Park route, Prospect Park Zoo Entrance Shelter, Tennis Shelter, Prospect Park Boathouse, and Audubon Center, and the Peristyle Croquet Shelter. Oh my goodness, I have a friend that used to play tennis at the tennis shelter all the time. And there it is. Rafael Gustavino Moreno, born Valencia, Spain, 1842, died Baltimore, 1908. Adventurous architect and visionary, he immigrated with his son, Rafael Gustavino Esposito, to the U.S. in 1881. He improved and patented the tiled vault as a fireproof construction technique with which he designed amazing curved architecture, changing the shape and color of ceilings in the United States. And Rafael Gustavino Esposito III, born in Barcelona, Spain in 1873 and died in New York in 1950. Fearless son, he was only 8 years old when he embarked on a journey with his father that would change his life forever. Fascinated by the amazing curved architecture that his father imported to the USA, he continued to work of the Gustavino Company and designed the most beautiful, colorful, enormous vaults that can ever be seen. Yay! In 1965, an architecture professor named George Collins was studying the history of Spanish architecture at Columbia University, and one day he looked up at the ceiling and saw the extraordinary Gustavino dome. Realizing that he had no knowledge of the dome or the architect who designed it, he started investigating. Our company had closed by then, but Collins went on to our abandoned factory outside Boston and found in the dumpster hundreds of Gustavino Company architectural drawings. He recovered them and took his collection to the Avery Library at Columbia University. Today, that collection is called the Gustavino Collins Archive, and anyone can visit to study our original drawings. Thank you, George Collins. Without you, our legacy might have been forgotten. And that's that story. Whoa. Okay. That's pretty cool. One brick within this name, Lucille, into the brick. 12 stories. So cool. So that was his first project, was a library. I know, his first project was a library. Isn't that awesome? And I bet they'd have no idea. Thank you, Gail. This is one of the things I love about, my brother-in-law is an architect. I'm going there to dinner tomorrow night. guess who's going to know something? This is very cool. I love this. The Biltmore in Asheville. I was in North Carolina and I knew, I went through it. Oh my gosh, it was beautiful. Yeah. I have to go back and listen. Got company missed. Oh, I'm sorry, Julia. He was a genius. And what just is amazing is that the wealth of knowledge that and how much it spreads around the world that we get from people from all over that have come to the United States. Oh wow. So impressive. Heck of a father were builders. It says Tamara says, my partner and his father were builders and renovated Colonial Lights house in our city, Adele, South Australia, and found some really cool things. His house. Well, we have a restorer here in the chat in this tribe here. Larry worked on some very historical buildings in Tacoma. Didn't you do the Palace Theater there and work in there on restoration there? And it's just gorgeous. Anyway, pretty bizarre. While renovating that building I was talking about earlier, it was a Masonic temple in its heyday. Oh my goodness, that would have been. Yeah. Well, Linda, thank you for the wow. Just wow. That's really nice. You guys, I'm just going to read the one tonight because it was a long one and that's a lot to take in. And so I wonder, let me, if I can go back and find, oh, that's a huge long book, who the illustrator was, because the illustrations were pretty cool on how they did this. What did I say the name was? Virginia Lorente. Virginia Lorente. There we go. Translate this page. Okay. Translate this page. It is done illustration. Google Translate from Spanish to English. So I'll show you this on screen share here. You can see a bit of her work here, the type of drawings that she does. The color palette is pretty. She uses a similar color palette pretty much so throughout a lot of her work, it seems like. And I believe she's Spanish. The original website was in Spanish. I believe I had to transfer it. Let's see, about me. If it's gonna come. I was born in Valencia in 1973. I do not remember when I started drawing. I can only say that I never left it since. I love illustration, tell stories, and convey emotions. She studied architecture. At the same time, she continued her artistic training at the Faculty of Fine Arts of the UPV and later at the EASD of Valencia, and in the specialty of graphic design, combining both disciplines, architecture and illustration. I illustrate for clients, both private and public, and she lives in Valencia. Cool. But her work, yeah, has that very similar color palette that we saw, and her tonal quality, I guess I could say, how she uses that kind of, it's almost a bit of a muted type of tone across it. It's pretty cool. I like it. So you guys, my sister's upstairs. She and Bob have dinner waiting, so I'm gonna close out. But thank you for joining me for this. I love learning all this. So I have a story for you tomorrow night. It's up and already the premiere is set for tomorrow night. I'll be at the art show, and then I'll do the second one in this series on Thursday as a recorded one too, because my other sister, literally, I think there's going to be 25 people at Carolyn's house for dinner or something like that. And it's an afternoon thing, but there's no guarantee I'll make it back by 6:30. So I'm going to put it in the on a recorded one for you. And so I probably won't be back live with you guys for a few days because Friday is Rookie's birthday. And you know, I love you guys dearly, but my 4-year-old granddaughter, I get to see her and I'm going to hang out. And McLean, my boy, and my little Goo-Goo, 1.5-year granddaughter, so I'm going to see those guys this weekend. So keep watching. There'll be a story for you every night. Just, you might not see my face live. And today, probably that's no loss. Anyway, you guys, what's muted? Nope, not muted there. Okay. Anyway, until next time, you guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for inviting me into your home. Thanks for coming into the studio and hearing these stories and learning all along with me and enjoying the journey. I appreciate it so much. And until next time, keep looking for the beauty hidden in plain sight. Oh my gosh. I think we need to look up for dome ceilings everywhere. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
In the heat of the night, we could get lost in all the lights and sounds.
No withdrawals. There's still a story there, Linda. Don't worry. I record it. It just goes as a premiere when I can't be live.
There's not just stars on the boulevard. They're in the light in your eyes. Oh, we don't need no black cards. I just need you by my side.
Oh, yes, ma'am, Linda.
We could be shameless, famous, running cool with a love that
Oh, the colors are muted. Thank you. You were feeling, I couldn't think of the word. Oh, I thought, well, am I on mute? What's
got me feeling starstruck too. We could be famous. We could be famous. You blow my mind, looking like a model, better than the usual. Yeah, you don't even try, not average or typical. I put you on a pedestal.